Well, I'm back at it on the metric build, and I've been going through, putting a lot of tubes in, working on the driver's compartment. Check this out, I'll show you what I've been doing. Well, it looks like the new shears will cut the 90 thousandths as long as I go straight, so I can cut pretty thick aluminum. That's nice. I don't think they would cut steel that thick. The last 2 weeks, I just had to stop and focus on Rachel's Camaro, get it ready where that we could get her to some practice sessions before the racing season started. But I've been doing a little bit of work every once in a while on the car, so let me catch you up on where I'm at. Of course, you saw the episode where I worked out this skeleton frame for the driver's compartment, but since then, I went ahead and I worked out where that my brake bias controller needs to go. And I like sitting in the seat and trying to figure out what was going to be the most comfortable. And I ended up like putting this long bracket down like this, because what I was trying to do was get it right where my hand would be comfortable to, like, you know, have it over here. It's up above my gear shifter. There's no conflict in between them. And then I split it and put a bearing back here as well. I don't like it when they wiggle and wobble all over the place. So I always take and split them up and put a bearing on the back and then a bearing up here so that they're real solid feeling. Got that connected on, it's good and smooth, so it's in a good spot. I got clearance firewall over here where my hand won't bump against the wall. So that's gonna all work great. I got the gear shifter in the right spot, and I've just literally got it clamped on with some vice grips over there. You know, and that was just all I had to do. I already had the rods and everything set, and I just had to set it in the right spot to where my shifters are in the middle and they work correctly. Distance-wise, it's perfect sitting in the seat. I knew all that would work out. So I just cut this plate out of the 90 thousandths, and I got my width right. And what I'm going to do is it's just barely long enough. Of course, I got my gussets on the front and the back where that it covers. But I'm having to use every last little scrap of this stuff right here. But I'm going to use it where I can because it's good and thick. It's going to be safer, compliant to all the rules and everything. So I'm going to try to use these pieces to make all of this. I think it's going to work out where I've got enough to do it all. But I've got some steel as well. So if I need to weld in a piece of steel somewhere, I can weld in steel. Anyway, I'm just going to take and put it where it goes. And I'm going to make my marks for where the slots need to be for the gear shifter. And then I'm just going to take a cut-off wheel and make the slots, clean them up, and then just put this on here. I'm going to pop rivet it down. And that's why I went ahead and I threw some black paint. That way I didn't like pop some aluminum down in places and then turn around and get rust, you know, under it where it's bare steel. Because I'm going to try to like get this thing together and then put paint on it, you know, afterwards. So anything where I'm covering up bare steel, throw some paint on it. So that's what's going on here. So let me get a marker out, and I'm gonna put that smooth. I got the uncut edge, and I will put this uncut edge towards me, and I'm just gonna take and overlap this thing like that, and then I'll turn around and I will put the marks from all back there. And then I'll just mark it, make sure I get it good and wide. And just drop them in. And then after that's pop rooted down, see, I can just drill the holes through it and bolt it up. So, not a big deal. Worked fine. I didn't want a big old hole there, like cutting a big square out. Because then, like, you take your receiver off, your earplug's out, and it goes down in there and hangs. You're trying to get it out, you break the cord off. Yeah, I had that happen one time, so. Let's try that. I think I'm there. I got some big old holes there. We'll see. I think it's going to be pretty robust. I mean, you never really know. It seems, oh man. I've got my front floor mounted right here under the pedals, and then I've got this side plate in. I had a piece of rigid diamond plate. This is aluminum diamond plate. And it was real stiff and everything. I think this is around 90 thousandths as well. So I went ahead and used it where I'd have enough aluminum to do the whole thing. I got my Weir's roller pedal right here, and I got up in the driver's compartment and marked where my foot goes. The stirrups to go under my heels, I think I'm gonna have to make something to bolt in afterwards, because I'm gonna have like an aluminum bottom pan. So it's probably gonna be a piece that like I make and bolt to it. So I am gonna do those, but you're not gonna see them go in right now. But anyway, I marked where that roller needs to be on the side. I just literally got in there and took a magic marker and reached down there and marked it. And so based on that, I'm gonna cut a hole up here. So I got me a hole saw. I'm just gonna make a big hole. And anyway, and get this thing in, and then I can put a little cover plate over the, if I got any gap, you know, holes showing afterwards. All right, so there we go. And then we're gonna put this in right here. I'm not gonna pop rivet that. That gets bolted, not pop riveted. So I've got to figure out this. That's an angled bracket where I can kind of rotate it around and get that angle right. And I think it needs to go kind of like this. All right, that from there in. Oh, my arm's just about too short. Oh, me. Cut around right here. So I'm putting in these weld-in blind nuts. Y'all check these out. So you see right there, see how that's got, that's a 1/4 20 that you weld in, but look, see that little flange right there? So you actually drill the hole oversized. Like I'm drilling these holes to like 19/64 all the way through, and then that locates it and it sits in there like that, and it won't move. And then you weld that bad boy in. That's how I'm bolting that floor pan. If you watched that previous episode, you saw where I come up with this floor pan to bolt in from underneath, where I can drop the floor pan out and work on the car. So I'm having to go ahead and get all these in because I'm fixing to put this panel on. It's going to be a lot easier to go ahead and do this right now. But yeah, they just, you drop them in the hole, drill it all the way through with like a 19/64. These particular ones are this size. You need to just check and see whatever size that little flange is on the ones you get. But then you just put a little weld on each side. Not a big deal. Yep. Okay, so you just put a little weld on each side of the tab. And you're oversized slightly, so you got all these bolts in here, but it's easy to start the bolts. Works out really well. So I got me just a sack full of these. Really cheap, easy way to do it. And I'm using them just for this pan. I'm not going to use them all over the place. I may use a couple in a couple of places, maybe some body mounts that make sense. But this floor pan right here, I realized being a bigger guy, like leaning over, like up underneath, trying to work on brakes and different things like that was just bad news. So I got a removable floor pan right here, but I'm gonna have a lot of bolts going around it. This is a nice thick piece of 90 thousandths aluminum as well. So trying to think about my safety along those lines, but yeah, welding them all in, getting ready to put that pan in there. So we'll do it next. We got our side plate bent up here, trimmed, ready to go. That bad boy is going right in here. I'm gonna try to get this thing to just fit just perfect. If I can. If I can't get it to fit just perfect, I'm gonna get it to just fit. As long as it goes, we'll be all right. Get a couple rivets in it. Definitely want something good to do. All right. Man, I am liking that. I rounded that edge right there so it wouldn't be sharp. Tried to get it all where it worked good. I think it's just great. Get down just a little bit. Right there. Come on, Dixie. I got my drive shaft safety loop ready to go right here. That's 1/4 inch by 1 inch flat steel, I think. And then I've got a little piece here with a turn on the bottom on each side with a cut angle in it. And that's just so that it matches up on my tubes to be right. And it's gonna go, how's it gonna go? It's gonna go just like this right here, kind of in below my shifter. Get it over here. This thing right here hasn't got to be that fancy. I just got to make sure that my drive shaft's not going to hit it and my gear shifter's not going to hit it. So everything is good there. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're good. Right there is good. That's a good spot. So now I'm on. So most of the time your rules will tell you to be like 6 inches back from your yoke. And the reason for that is because, like you can see right here, say my yoke's right in here working, I'm around 6 inches back. So you don't want the end of the yoke to be like to jump out from it. And you don't want it to be way back. You don't want a whole bunch of drive shaft to be in front of this loop, because then that oscillating out here, you know, can beat over, break the yoke off, get into your legs or whatever. So you do want it to be up front, but you do need to have several inches here before the yoke. You don't want it to be right up on your yoke or it can jump out of it. So, you know, most of the rules will say 6 inches back from your yoke, and that makes sense. That is a safe thing. So weld this thing up right quick. See what the next one here is. Let's put this in here in. Oh yeah. Put a clamp on it. Maybe right there. That looks like a good spot. Come up a little bit. Lock you on. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. One right there. Y'all, this part right here is tedious, man. I'm breaking this front here into a couple of pieces because I put my master cylinders on the outside here. It's gonna be a lot easier for me to maintenance them and stuff. I don't know that it's gonna bring me any more types of issues. I don't think it is. I don't think from like dirt getting on them or anything like that, because the mechanisms and the bias and everything, that's on the inside. It's just the actual master cylinder itself. So I don't think it's going to cause me any problems. But, I mean, I'm not naive. I'm thinking it's going to be good. I'm trying to move that firewall back as far as I can. I want to be able to get to my transmission and change it and change the fluid and stuff in it without fighting with the firewall. So I really wanted to move this firewall back as much as I possibly could. You know, so it's intentional. I'm not saying it's the perfect thing to do, but it's what I wanted to do on this build. And a year from now, I might be telling y'all, well, that wasn't the best idea. I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, it's what we're doing. So I am really, really ready to get this thing to the track. And I got just a little bit more here to do. And then it's going to be ready to come off the jig. I got a few more bars to put in, and then this thing is coming off the jig. This stuff here is just easier to do because it's up here, you know, at like chest height for me to work on it. But once I get this done and a few more tubes, this thing's coming off the jig. And then I'm going to get down the floor. I'm going to paint it Massey Ferguson gray. That's what we decided to go with. I'm going to use an implement paint. I'm not powder coating. I don't have time for all of that. And I got too many things that I have to figure out and weld on brackets and stuff like after I paint to do powder coat. You need to have one that like your design is, you're doing to be able to powder coat. So I'm not that good. I'm not good enough to go that route yet. So I'm going to paint it with implement paint and just use some thinner and some hardener in it. It'll be fine. Paint don't make a car go faster, so whatever. But anyway, get it off the floor, start getting it together, up and rolling, get a paintbrush out, get a sprayer out, get this thing painted. We're not that far away. I know it seems like it, but we're not. We're actually pretty close to getting this thing up and rolling. I got all my brake stuff in the other day, and I am making a change on the brakes. I had run, in the past, I've run a manual cutoff for the 3-wheel, and I don't really want to use 3-wheel brakes. It's kind of like a backup emergency plan, but on this build here, I'm going with an electronic cutoff. Brian Swagger, he sponsored us our electronic cutoff, and when we do the brake lines and everything, I'm going to show that because I'm going to put in a system with a momentary cutoff for the 3-wheel. We're going to do a toggle button, a momentary. I got a plan for all that. I'm really excited about it. I want to get to that and show that. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you sponsoring us on the brake cutoff because that was not an inexpensive piece, y'all. But by using an electronic one, it's going to let us be able to add another option to the car that I think is going to be useful. We'll talk more about that when we get to that episode, hopefully within another week or two. Well, this is as far as I can take the driver's compartment. I need to do tubing now. This back wall over here, I can't put it in yet. I realized that I've got a top deck stringer that's going to be above my roll cage tubing. Well, I want that wall to go up to that top, to the deck there, so that seals that off, so that stays out until we get the body figured out. And then these top pieces here are the same way. They're going to go up and connect to the body so it seals out the dirt and stuff there. This piece right here, I don't want to put in until I've got my tubing in here so I can weld up. Same deal on the back wall there. So this is as far as it can go. And we need to do tubing. I got some pieces cut on the other side. Let's get those in. So I've been studying my design, and I knew that this outside rail, I don't want it to be connected to this inside tubing because this is kind of like my structure that's going to keep the car square. In case this one gets bent up, whatever, I can just cut it loose, fix it, put it back. But I don't have any support on this leg right here. I don't have, any type of tubing. So if I get it hit hard enough that it pushes this in 6 inches, it's going to fold that tube in as well. And then at that point, I'm starting to turn the car. I'm going to turn the front clip possibly when I do that. And I was like, oh, that needs a little bit more. And I've got the full X running across the bottom here in my Docal 1.25 inch. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take and I'm going to tie on, and I'm going to put me just like a little dog leg right there. And I put the header on right here, my extensions, to make sure I cleared where my brackets, and it bolts up and the whole 9 yards here. And that's the reason I've been leaving the engine in. I was like, a lot of that work. I'm like, man, I wish this engine was out. But I've realized, building these cars, you better have an engine or a mock-up engine or something in it, or you'll get in trouble. But anyway, I'm going to throw this one in right quick. Kind of a weird angle, but that's going to serve the purpose. Gives me room for my exhaust header to go through here. That's what I need, y'all. So get that in right quick. I'm going to go ahead and get this extension off here. I didn't have it bolted in. But now what I do, see here, I've got a bolt here and a tab here. That way I can bolt that up, because you add the weight to the ends of these headers, that's what helps break those tubes off. So anything like this right here, you definitely want to have some type of supports on it. Keep it from just sitting there vibrating, because it'll break, and where they break usually is like along this collector right here. They're just going to break right off. Anyway, food for thought on that, guys. All right, get this welded up. All right, I got that leg welded up. Next one I'm putting in, now y'all knew I was going to put this one in, and it goes right here. All right, so that's a main tube right there. That one I need, and it serves a couple of purposes. So twist of the chassis itself and collapse, but also this one's 1.5 inch Docal, because this is an intrusion tubing. We're not going to have full door bars, all those door bars out here. We're going to have an additional tube right here, like a rub rail, but then this one actually serves as part of my intrusion protection. So important tube, needed to be big, thick tubing. Weld this sucker in right quick. I've got one more over here we're putting in right now. This down leg right here, I debated not putting this in because I was wanting this chassis to have a little bit more ability to flex, but it needs this one. It could be catastrophic failure without this tube right here. I'm going to leave the petty bar that goes from this corner up through the cage. I'm not putting that one in. That one stops all torsional twist from happening in the car, and I want the car to have a little bit of flex in it, so I'm leaving that one out. This one here, it's got to go in there. And I'm just using 1.25 inches right here. That's plenty for this. But yeah, let's get this in right quick. So I've been looking at this rear clip design. I really like it, but I realized I could use a little bit more. And I got to looking at how the fuel tank comes in and out and stuff, and I realized that I've got these tubes on the bottom running at an angle this way, and I would be able to run some at an angle opposite of that on top and get right in here like this, and I would still be able to get the fuel cell in and out if I got everything just right. So I have cut this tube and measured and tested and checked, and we're going to put that tube right in right there, and that fuel cell slide out from underneath it. It does add another tube that's to a different tie point as far as like if this gets folded up. Of course, look where I'm tying into. I'm tying into my main center of my cage right there, so I'm not going to bend that up, but I would probably have to maybe like cut loose that tubing up there at that tie point, which is cool, but it seems like it just needs a little bit more. It's like I'm coming down so close together, and I was questioning like, man, am I going to take and like, you know, fold this up or down a little easier than what I want to? I just kept on looking at it. Y'all know how I am. I just study my design, and it kind of evolves as I work my way through it. Every car is different. So I decided the tube on each side, exactly the same, both sides. It's just going to make me happy. We're going to do that. Let's review where we're at when we wrap this episode up. So, driver's compartment, we got all the sheet metal in that we can do. At this point, I think all the rest of this sheet metal is actually going to be done like after we get the car down and we're putting the body, all of that layout on it. That's when I'll probably actually finish up the rest of the tin work in the driver's compartment. Of course, you see, I got this tube here just to stop this from getting pushed in. I got my two main trusses right here that the car had to have in it. Went back, put the tubes in up here, and the fuel cell can pull out and go in with those. I really like that. That completed that look. I was looking for something a little more there. I'm happy with it now. That's perfect. I like that design. Let's see. Oh, I didn't show this. I put the battery box in. You see it's right in front of my rear end, high up, and over here on the passenger side. So good spot for the battery box for me. And I did check, and I can slide the battery in and out right here. One of the things that I didn't think about until I started putting it in was, how am I going to get this thing in and out? And anyway, so I checked to make sure that I didn't trap it, like have a deck here and literally no way to get the battery out without having to like take sheet metal off. Well, the next thing I'm going to work on, I'm going to get those door bars done. And whatever sheet metal work that I can do after the door bars are done that makes sense, I'll get that knocked out. And then I'm going to put the front end together while it's on the jig, the center link and all of that stuff. I think I'm going to try to do the bump steer and stuff with it up on the jig and figure that out. If I can get my gauge to sit up on top of the jig to do it, I'll do that because it'll be easier to film and easier for me to do it and stuff. If I can. No promises on that, y'all, but that's what I want to try to do because I want to try to show doing that. Now, I've got a bump steer video from my previous build, so if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description on this video. But other than that, when I get that done, this thing's ready to get off of this jig where I can get it down on the floor, get some body mounts and stuff on it, get some paint on it, and we can go racing. All right, I will see y'all next time.